On moving day, my brother Samuel's jealousy exploded. He used emotional manipulation to try and ruin everything. So, this all went down just last weekend, and I still can't shake the weird mix of anger and guilt I feel. I 28F was finally moving out of my parents' house into an apartment with my boyfriend, Alex 29M. We've been planning this for months, and moving day was supposed to be exciting. My parents were super supportive. They even rented a small U-Haul and were ready to help load everything up. But then there's my brother, Samuel 30M. Now, Samuel still lives at home. He's had a rough few years, some job issues, relationships not working out, that kind of thing. I've always tried to be supportive, but the truth is, he gets jealous. Whenever I talk about something good happening in my life, he either goes quiet or makes some cutting remark. Anyway, on the morning of the move, my dad, Alex, and I were loading boxes into the truck. My mom was inside wrapping up some kitchen stuff in newspaper. Samuel came downstairs late, in sweatpants, holding a mug of coffee like he just rolled out of bed. "Wow," he said, standing in the doorway, "look at you guys, real adults. Have guess I missed the seminar on how to make it in life." I laughed awkwardly, trying to brush it off. "Morning to you two, Sam. Want to grab a box and help?" He sipped his coffee and said, "Yeah, sure. Let me just drop everything in my life to serve you big moving day." The sarcasm was thick enough you could spread it on toast. My dad gave him a look and muttered, "Don't start, Samuel." But of course he did start. The more we carried boxes, the more Samuel hovered around making comments. "Oh, Alex, careful with that box. Don't want to scratch your shiny new apartment floor." Or, "Well, Mom, you're really pulling out all the stops for her. Did you do this much when I needed help?" It was like he couldn't stand the spotlight not being on him. And honestly, it was working. Mom started getting defensive. Dad was sighing, and I felt this heavy guilt creeping in, like maybe I was being selfish for making the day about me. At one point, while Alex was holding my dresser, Samuel cornered me in the kitchen. He leaned against the counter and lowered his voice like he was confiding in me. "You know Mom and Dad can't really afford this, right?" he said. "The truck, the gas, all this time off work, but of course, it's you, so no one says anything. If it were me, they'd be telling me to figure it out myself." I froze. "Sam, they offered. I didn't even ask." "Yeah," he smirked, "because you don't have to ask. You just take. You always have." And the thing is, the way he said it made me feel like maybe he was right. Like I was some kind of burden. I stood there holding a stack of plates wrapped in newspaper, my hands shaking. That's when Mom walked in, saw my face, and said sharply, "Samuel, what are you saying to your sister?" And just like that, the tension in the room hit a boiling point. Mom's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Samuel, what are you saying to your sister?" He didn't even flinch. He just shrugged, real casual, like he hadn't just dropped a bomb in my head. "Nothing, Mom, just pointing out the truth. Someone has to." I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Mom immediately jumped in. "That's enough. Today's about her moving. If you can't be supportive, then at least don't make it harder." Samuel let out this short laugh, half bitter, half mocking. "Supportive, right, like when I got laid off last year and you told me to stay positive. Nobody rented me a truck. Nobody threw me a celebration." Dad, who had been lugging a box past us, stopped in the doorway. His voice was tight. "Samuel, we're not doing this today." But of course, Samuel thrives on drama. He raised his eyebrows at me like he was the victim. "See what I mean? Every time I bring up my struggles, I get shut down. But you," he pointed at me. "You just breathe, and everyone bends over backward." I snapped then, louder than I meant to. "This isn't about you, Sam. I'm moving out. I'm not stealing the family savings or something." The kitchen went quiet except for the sound of Alex setting down the dresser upstairs with a heavy thud. Samuel stared at me like I'd just slapped him. "You think this is just about a truck?" he said, lowering his voice again, but with this intensity that made my stomach twist. "You've always been the golden child. You get the grades, the attention, the boyfriend who actually sticks around. Me, I'm the screw-up, and now you're leaving, and guess who's stuck here looking like a failure?" It wasn't even anger in his eyes, it was desperation. And that's what got me. Because part of me wanted to hug him, but another part of me was furious that he was turning my moment into his pity party. Alex came back down just in time to catch the tail end of it. He walked over, wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Hey, what's going on?" Before I could answer, Samuel said, "What's going on is that you're stealing my sister away from this family." Alex blinked. "What? That's ridiculous. She's not property, Sam. She's choosing her own life." Samuel smirked again, but his voice cracked. "Easy for you to say. You don't know what it's like being the leftover kid." At that point, Dad lost his patience. He set down the box he was carrying and said firmly, "Enough, Samuel. Your sister has worked hard for this. You don't get to guilt trip her because of your own choices." Samuel's face went red. "Oh, so now I'm the villain, because I can't pretend everything's fine while you all cheer for her." Mom put a hand on his arm, trying to calm him, but he pulled away. "No, don't act like you care. If you cared, you wouldn't be so eager to help her run off while I'm stuck here." The room felt like it was on fire. I wanted to scream, to tell him how unfair he was being, but my throat locked up. For a second, I honestly considered calling off the move just to stop the chaos. And that's exactly what Samuel seemed to be aiming for, making me doubt myself. I swear, if I hadn't been so stressed, I might have laughed at how absurd it all sounded. But in that moment, Samuel's words landed heavy. Run off, the golden child, stuck here. It was like he was laying down bricks of guilt, one after another, until I could barely breathe. I remember staring at the pile of boxes in the living room and thinking, maybe he's right. Maybe I am abandoning them. That hesitation, he saw it. And he pounced. You don't have to go today, Samuel said, his voice softening like he was being reasonable. You could wait a week, figure out if this is even the right move. I mean, do you even know if you and Alex can handle living together? What if it falls apart? Alex stiffened next to me. We've talked about this 100 times, Sam. We're ready. Samuel ignored him and turned to me, eyes wide, like he was pleading. Just think about it. If you leave, you're not just moving out, you're leaving me behind. You know how lonely it gets for me here. Don't do this to me. That hit me like a punch. The emotional manipulation was so blatant, but it still got under my skin. Mom saw it too, her face hardened, and she said firmly, Samuel, stop trying to guilt your sister. This isn't fair. But he doubled down. Not fair. You don't get it. Every time she wins, I lose, and you all act like I should just clap from the sidelines. Well, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being invisible. Dad muttered under his breath, You're not invisible. You're just bitter. That set Samuel off. He slammed his coffee mug down so hard on the counter it cracked. You don't know what it's like, Dad. You never once told me you were proud of me. Not once, but her. You brag about her to the neighbours like she's some kind of trophy. The whole house went dead silent. I felt the surge of anger, stronger than the guilt. My hands were shaking, but I looked right at him and said, Sam, I've never asked to be compared to you. I'm just trying to live my life. Why do you have to turn everything into a competition? For the first time, he didn't shoot back a snarky comment. His fist crumpled for half a second like I'd hit too close to the truth, but then he straightened, jaw tight. Because that's the only way I know you even see me. That broke me. I could feel tears threatening, but I held them back. Alex put a hand on my shoulder and said quietly, We should keep moving. Dad cleared his throat, his voice rough. We're finishing this move today, end of discussion. But Samuel wasn't done. He stepped right in front of the doorway, blocking the path with his arms crossed. If you walk out that door, don't expect me to be here when you come back. The ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. Mum gasped, Dad cursed under his breath, and my heart sank. It was no longer about moving boxes. It was about whether I was going to let Samuel's jealousy control my future. And for the first time that day, I realised this was a battle line. The second Samuel blocked the doorway, it felt like the air got sucked out of the room. Nobody moved. The hum of the fridge and the faint sound of traffic outside were the only noises. My hands were clammy against the cardboard box I was holding. Dad's voice cut through sharp. Move, Samuel, no. But Samuel stood there, jaw clenched, eyes locked on me. No, she needs to decide, family or him. He jerked his chin toward Alex like he was some villain luring me away. Alex stepped forward, calm but firm. This isn't a competition, Sam. She's not choosing me over you. She's choosing her own life. Samuel sneered. Easy for you to say. You're the reason she's leaving. Without you, she'd still be here, and I wouldn't be. His voice cracked, and he swallowed hard before finishing. Alone. I finally set the box down, my hand shaking. Sam, this isn't about Alex. I'd be moving out no matter what. I can't stay here forever just to make you feel better. His eyes flashed, and for a moment I thought he was going to scream. Instead, he lowered his voice, which somehow made it scarier. So that's it? You just walk out and leave me here to rot? Mom stepped closer, trying to put a hand on his shoulder. You're not rotting, sweetheart. You're here. Don't patronize me, she snapped, shrugging her off. I know what you'll think. I'm the disappointment, the screw-up, and now she gets a happy ending while I'm stuck in this house like some loser. Something in me snapped then. Weeks, months, hell, years of swallowing my guilt just boiled over. Stop acting like my happiness is an attack on you. I supported you through every breakup, every job loss, every time you spiraled, and I never once made you feel guilty for needing help, but now that I finally do something for myself, suddenly I'm the selfish one. That's not fair, Sam. It's manipulation, and I'm done with it. The words hung in the air, and for the first time all day, Samuel looked stunned. His mouth opened like he wanted to fire back, but nothing came out. Dad finally stepped in, his voice low but firm. Your sister's right. You're not a victim here, Samuel. You're a grown man. Start acting like one. Alex reached down, picked up the box I'd set aside, and walked right past Samuel, brushing his shoulder deliberately. We're moving this, with or without your blessing. For a moment, I thought Samuel might actually shove him. He tensed, fists clenched, but then his shoulders sagged. He stepped aside, muttering, Fine, go, leave. Don't say I didn't warn you when it all falls apart. I walked past him, slowly, heart pounding, but I didn't look back. Mom's eyes were glassy, like she wanted to cry, but she didn't stop me. Dad just picked up another box, silent. As Alex and I loaded the last few things into the truck, I could feel Samuel's eyes burning into my back from the doorway. His silence felt heavier than all the shouting had. For the first time all day, I realised something. This move wasn't just about changing where I lived. It was about breaking free from the grit Samuel had on me. The drive to the new apartment should have felt like relief, but it didn't. My stomach was in knots, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking on my lap. Alex glanced over at me a few times, trying to gauge if I was okay, but I couldn't even form words yet. When we pulled up to the building, he parked the truck and said softly, Hey, don't let him get in your head. He wanted to control the narrative. You didn't give him that power. I nodded, but tears welled up anyway. I feel like I just ripped the family apart. Alex squeezed my hand. You didn't rip anything. You just refused to be guilt-tripped into staying stuck. That's not your burden. We started unloading, but every box felt heavier than it should have. Not physically, emotionally. Every item I carried into the new place seemed to echo Samuel's words. Golden child. Selfish. Leaving me behind. Halfway through, Mom called. I froze when I saw her name on the screen, afraid it was going to be more guilt. But I answered. Her voice was soft, tired. Honey, are you okay? I don't know, I admitted. Is he the Sam okay? There was a pause. He's sulking in his room, slammed the door, said not to bother him, but your dad and I were proud of you. Don't let what he said make you doubt that. That made me break down right there in the empty apartment, sitting on a box labelled kitchen. Mom stayed on the line until I could breathe again. Later that night, when most of the boxes were in, Dad texted me too. Just one line, don't apologise for living your life. That meant more than he probably realised. But Samuel, he didn't text. He didn't call. Nothing. The silence was deafening. The next day, Mum stopped by with some groceries for us. She looked exhausted. Over coffee at our tiny kitchen table she confessed, "You know, your brother tried to convince us last night that we should have refused to help you move. He said if we really cared about him, we'd have forced you to stay." I stared at her. "What did you say?" She gave a bitter laugh. I told him love doesn't mean holding someone hostage. He didn't like that answer. The guilt in her eyes nearly broke me, but I realised it wasn't my guilt to carry anymore. Samuel was choosing to stay stuck. Choosing to lash out instead of change. That night, I finally let myself enjoy the new place. Alex and I ordered takeout, sat on the floor surrounded by boxes, and toasted with cheap wine out of mismatched mugs. For the first time all weekend, I laughed. Still, in the back of my mind, Samuel's last words replayed. Don't say I didn't warn you when it all falls apart. And I couldn't help but wonder, was this really over, or just the beginning of a bigger rift? The first week in the new apartment was a roller coaster. On one hand, I loved the freedom decorating the space, cooking with Alex without anyone hovering, blasting music at midnight just because we could. On the other hand, the silence from Samuel was deafening. I called Mom a couple of times, but every conversation felt like tiptoeing around a landmine. She'd give me little updates. Samuel hasn't come out of his room much, or he skipped dinner again, but she always said it in this way that made me feel like she was hinting I should fix it. One evening, Dad called instead, which almost never happens. His voice was low, heavy. "Listen, kiddo, don't feel guilty for what happened. Your brother, he thrives on drama. He'll have to figure out his life sooner or later. You can't sacrifice yours to keep him comfortable." Hearing Dad say that hit me harder than I expected. For so long, he's been the quiet one, letting Mom handle the emotional messes. But in that moment, I felt like he really saw what I was going through. Still, I couldn't shake the pit in my stomach. Samuel hadn't just been jealous, he'd been desperate. And desperate people don't just let things go. Sure enough, the second weekend after the move, Samuel finally texted me. 3 short messages. "Hope you're happy. Mom's crying every night. But whatever, enjoy your shiny new life." It was like a knife straight to the gut. I knew Mom wasn't crying every night. She literally laughed on the phone with me 2 days earlier. But the way he twisted reality made me feel like I was the villain anyway. That's the thing with emotional manipulation. Even when you know it's not true, part of you still believes it. I showed the text to Alex. He frowned. "He's trying to reel you back in. If you respond, you're playing his game." "But he's my brother," I said, my voice cracking. "What if he really does feel abandoned?" Alex put his arm around me. "Then he needs to learn to deal with it in a healthy way. It's not your job to sacrifice your happiness to fill his void." At night, I typed and deleted about 10 different responses. Apologies, explanations, angry comebacks, you name it. In the end, I said nothing. The silence stretched for days. And then, Mom called again, her voice tight. "Samuel says you're ignoring him. He told me you don't care about this family anymore." I groaned, pressing my forehead to my hand. "Mom, that's not true, and you know it. I can't keep feeding into his drama. It's exhausting." She sighed. "I know, sweetheart, but it's hard. He makes me feel like I'm choosing between my kids." That's what hit me. Samuel wasn't just manipulating me. He was manipulating all of us. And unless someone stopped the cycle, this family drama was going to spiral into something even uglier. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Mom invited us all for Sunday dinner, her way of keeping the peace. Alex was hesitant, but I agreed, hoping maybe Samuel had cooled off. When we walked in, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Samuel was already at the table, arms crossed, eyes darting between me and Alex like we were intruders. Mom was bustling in the kitchen, overcompensating with too much fruit, while Dad sat at the head of the table with his usual quiet stare. Dinner started awkwardly. Mom kept asking Alex about work. I tried to make small talk about the apartment, but Samuel was silent. Until suddenly he wasn't. "So," he said loudly, slamming his fork down, "how's life in your palace? Bet it's nice not having to deal with us peasants anymore." The room froze. Alex's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. I forced a calm voice. "It's not like that, Sam. You know it." He leaned forward, eyes blazing. "No, I don't know. All I know is you walked out and left me to pick up the pieces." Dad finally snapped. "Pieces of what, Samuel? Your sister moving out doesn't ruin your life." Samuel shot him a look, then turned back to me. "You think you're so much better than me. You've got the boyfriend, the apartment, the parents who worship the ground you walk on. Stop it." I interrupted, my voice shaking but loud. Everyone froze. My hands were trembling, but I pushed through. "This isn't about me being better. This is about you refusing to take responsibility for your own life. I'm not your enemy, Sam. I'm your sister. But you keep turning everything into a competition I never signed up for." He blinked, stunned by my outburst. I kept going before I lost my nerve. "I'm done letting you guilt me. I'm done carrying your insecurities like they're my fault. I love you, but I will not let you control me with jealousy." The silence that followed was brutal. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad stared at his plate. Alex reached under the table and squeezed my hand. Finally, Samuel muttered, Almost too quiet to hear, so that's it, you're giving up on me. I shook my head. No, I'm setting boundaries. If you want me in your life, it has to be healthy. I can't keep letting you tear me down just because you're unhappy with yourself. For once, he didn't argue. He just sat back in his chair, expression unreadable. The rest of dinner was stiff, but the blow-up was out in the open. When Alex and I left, Mum hugged me tight and whispered, I'm proud of you. On the drive home, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Not happy exactly, but free. I don't know if Samuel will change. Maybe he'll keep sulking, maybe he'll lash out again. But I finally understood something. I can love my brother without sacrificing myself. And for the first time, that felt like enough.